God went through and said, I curse you.
You didn't even give me like an option.
And it is an ugly fucking
Jared, Jarrod. Yeah, Marma, that one. There's two probably.
Who gave me this?
Who gave you this shit?
Who made me drink this?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I remember going with Amanda, who's like, it's this little cute little thing, and she's like,
sure.
Never wants me to say anything that's true. I'm like, I'm going through this part of Greece, I'm like, holy fuck, these people are ugly, like every one of them. And she's like wouldn't talk to me for 4 hours. Like, I'm sorry, but isn't it true?
4 hours.
Anyway.
She personalized that.
Well, I mean, and that's her. She's actually one of those women who's totally got down the four commitments, right? Don't personalize anything, but it's
good.
It's a women thing. They got that going on.
What
and we don't want them to change.
So I have a question. Okay, so peaceful separation sounds more pleasant than the alternative, obviously, and
No,
maybe
I just more efficacious.
Okay.
I'd rather go to war. Anybody who follows me knows my preference is I want a fucking statue somewhere and I want piles of skulls.
Very well. That might not be a very popular preference.
Huh?
Might not be very popular.
Truth before face. Truth is what it is. That's what I want.
Personal
I
preference.
want to make
It's not.
Alexander look like he sucked mommy's tit.
Right. So my question is, since the separation will be between people who are fit for civilization versus those who are unfit for civilization, then won't long term.
A smart guy in the crowd.
Oh yeah, definitely. We found him for you.
Well, I listened to the choice on the way over. It was an 18-hour drive. I had the time. I'm from Minnesota.
Good shit, man.
But anyway, so won't eventually, in the long term, the productive states need to expand and therefore come into conflict with the uncivilized people?
Right.
And where would that leave somebody like a Ted Kaczynski who ardently opposes living in a civilization? Where would that leave him?
Too many steps.
Then one question first.
How long does it take for a socialist organization to collapse on average?
So far, it was 90 years or 80 years.
No, that was a big year and a half. It doesn't take long.
Like Venezuela didn't.
It takes a generation, really.
A generation?
Let's take
That's
Venezuela.
something
But
else.
generally, it takes a generation. And I'm not going to go through it, but I know this from a lot about Eastern Europe, particularly about the loss of skills and productivity in the Soviet Union.
Right.
Great deal about this particular case. So the reason the Soviet Union worked is really quite simple, right? What they did is they flattened wages.
Oh yes.
So if I can tell you to do the same job,
Centrally controlled.
and so they basically, what did the Chinese do? They copied us. I'll use debt, right? And so but the Russians didn't have the opportunity to use debt.
Okay.
So they used flattened wages.
Yeah.
The problem is, what happens is, if you're competent, you eventually realize that this is. So if you look at the construction of their buildings in the Stalin era, they're as good as Western. But by the 1970s, I mean, it's not as bad as China. I mean, China's a fucking joke, right? If you see a building made in China, if you can't put your hand through it without force, somebody paid too much. Right? So I mean, this place is falling apart. So, but same thing has happened if you go to the buildings built in the Soviet Union during the 70s. Is the craftsmen have lost their ability. So I use this to illustrate a basic fact of everything across the civilization. You have to be in continuous training by the continuous struggle to defeat the market in order to maintain competency.
Right.
And so that's what happens in socialist organizations. So what happens, and so the next thing, the consequence of it is basically every possible way of you creating a gray or black market to circumvent the market occurs. Right? In other words, what socialism does is it maximizes non-market functionality. Right, and so basically the market's no longer able to produce enough to cover the non-market losses, and so this is what happens everywhere. And the people, of course, once they've been ruined, like Spain was ruined by the gold brought over from the New World, once people have been ruined, they don't come back. So you never want people to get to that point where they've been through socialism.
Are we a hair away from that in the States?
Our problem right now is that, we were probably peers with Ashkenazi, at least in England. My class was in England in the middle 1800s. We've lost, because we've had lower class expansion and immigration, we're down around 98 right now. 97 is about the minimum of an advanced civilization, and you start going to 95 and it's over. So it's not very, we don't have to lose much more. So the problem is we have to separate the basic groups so that economies can function at their utilitarian level. So we're spending money on we're spending money on education and not on, you know, I don't want to go through that chain again. If we're spending money incorrectly, we're not financing the production of people who are capable for maintaining the standard of living, which is what's happening. And we can do that. Trump knows what to do himself, right? He wants to repatriate industry. If we do enough repatriation of industry, if the government finances it, well, it's just additional credit, which we do all the time, then it'll come back.
Curt, I was talking with Michael Sisko, who's a journalist. Yeah. He's coming in from outside, right? He's an outsider. He's looking at this, right? We had a conversation about monarchy, which is something that you have been kind of hesitant to disregard. So monarchy in the sense of Putin, in the modern era, he created a federation, in my opinion.
No, this is the problem.
No?
I use the term monarchy.
Okay.
There are
absolute monarchy.
Heads, there are kings.
Yeah.
The only kings are Germanic. The only competing kings are European. And so there are tribal leaders, there are kings, and there are monarchs.
Yeah.
A monarch is a Christian king.
Okay.
Right? Right. What's a constitutional monarchy? It's a monarch that is in that job because you need somebody in that job.
I agree.
Because that person, the purpose of a monarch is not to say via positiva what to do. It's to say no fucking way, that's enough.
Do you think the presidency is associable?
No. It's not a matter. I'm sorry, but this is just read Hobbes.
I'm asking you hard questions. Sorry.
It's not a hard question. It's just
you have it figured out. I understand.
Of the models, prime minister, right? President, monarch, or at least cabinet monarch, right?
Sure.
The worst possible one is president.
Yeah.
And if you get a 4-year presidency and a 4-year Congress or whatever, and they turn regularly in a sinusoidal method, you're not able to institute policy. This is why Germans are actually able to put policy together, because they can keep somebody in office for 20 years. The problem is Germans don't have our constitution, so they don't live under rule of law, so they don't have fundamental rights, and they live under Napoleonic law, which means they actually have to say what you can do rather than what you can't do, right? And so they live under whatever, but they manage to do it. Why? Because they're fucking German. That's why. They've been German forever.
Efficient is what you mean.
What?
It's synonymous with efficiency.
Well, it's synonymous with, here's why it is. Germany's really special because they're in geographically a very difficult position where they're surrounded.
Don't do it.
You gotta have fuel for the fire.
Say more stupid shit.
Hell yeah.
So you want to be able to have a government that can, usual policies, any policy worth implementing will take 12 years, which is half a generation to make. Right. Our system makes it absolutely impossible for any policies to get done.
And nothing gets done.
And nothing gets done, and everything collapses. And so it's all about this
compromise.
It's all about power.
Yes.
They try to get power and pay off their sides.
Establish power.
If you were going to follow like Fukuyama, he would say we have a clientelistic government. We don't actually have a democracy.
Yes.
We don't have a professional bureaucracy. We have a clientelistic government.
Agreed.
And the reason Germany doesn't is because they didn't democratize first. They professionalized their government, their bureaucracy first. They made it the nice way to make a good living, so they captured good people like the Chinese did, and then they had democracy. We did the opposite, and that's why we're fucked.
Well,
right.
I got a question about like economic standpoint. So
I want to make sure I don't feel like I answered whatever question. Oh, monarchy.
Oh.
Okay. So a constitutional monarchy is just it's like the president has veto, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the right to correct a wrong.
Right.
The Queen of England
does,
right? She won't use it.
Yeah.
Right.
As she did recently.
She can,
honestly.
Right?
Yeah. No. Recently,
Yeah.
she reset Parliament's decision on Brexit. Right.
Right. So this is why you want a king.
That's absolutely why.
Political systems. Read. You can read Burnham, or you can read. Who's the guy who wrote Iron Law of Oligarchy?
That book. Yeah. Who knows?
Mosca, thank you. So you read Mosca, but basically, political systems all fail frequently. Not all the time, but they fail because they can calculate the wrong decision, often
Yeah.
because of the way things happen to be made.
Hijack you again. Sorry. So could you explain why the monarchy is preferable in the absolute position as opposed to for long-term planning? Can you explain why we choose a monarchy for long-term planning?
Read Hop.
Read Hop. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. Read Dune.
No, it's actually,
That's me. That's me.
No, the
Sorry.
reason is it's the tragedy of the commons. Everybody who takes a political office in this country is a renter.
Yes.
They're not an owner.
Yes.
What nobility was, in other words, the people who were nobility, they were landholders granted by the king responsible for a territory, right? So they were businessmen.
Yes.
Right? And so you had businessmen, right? And then you had the monarchy. And then you had the common House of Commons that would come along and like, well, if you want our money, we need approval. So what did I lost? I lost. Fuck it. Monarchy. So the
Monarchy,
constitutional
yeah.
monarchy is better because they are the only people with the incentive to persist the tradition
A bloodline,
of civilization. It's
right?
not the bloodline. It's
Oh.
the privilege between generations that their hosts hold on. It's not that monarchical privilege is bad. It's that monarchical privilege is exactly what you want them to have. So
Okay.
they fucking jealously guard it so that they maintain the civilization in its current state.
Could heritability exist outside of a bloodline then?
It always has.
It always has, right? Okay. So that was something we were debating
William
over
of
there.
Orange. I mean, you know.
William of
People don't
Orange.
think about this. You gotta think
The
about
Dutch.
Nobility in Europe's never been more than a couple 100,000 people.
Yeah.
It's a small people, right? I mean,
Okay.
so it doesn't take a lot. Even today, there's like plenty of. I mean, if you went to the, I'm kind of a fan of Marines, as everybody knows, right? So, but if you went to, because they teach, because you fucking teach you to dig dude.
Yes.
You're not a clerk.
Yes.
And so,
Kurt loves Marines, by the way.
If I could have if you could have find a general in the Marines that was young, or somebody was young, he was really into it, he got 6 kids and whatever, then I'm like, we got a king.
Well, we have a god in the Marines right now, and his name is Mattis. And right now, the big problem, you know what the big problem is, Kurt? He's a god with no kids. He has no descendancy. He has people maybe he could teach intellectually.
Do you want anybody holding the House of Government, any position, that doesn't have 3 kids?
I do not. I do not. No.
That-
They have no claim. They have no stake. They have no skin in the game. They have none of
They
that.
have no, exactly. Well, you know what? We forget a family's a business.
Absolutely.
A business is a bigger business.
Yes.
Industry is a bigger business. Financial
Heritable
business is a bigger
businesses.
business. And a country is another business. They're
Okay.
all businesses, right?
Okay.
They have to stay afloat. Well, you know, if you can't run a family, I'm sorry, man. You know, I'm kind of questioning why you have an opinion here.
No, yeah, okay. So Heinlein's corporate families. How do you feel about those? As discussed,
understand what you just said.
sorry, as discussed in The Moon is Harsh Mistress, Heinlein establishes a family line that is immune to death taxes, right? So that is something he's trying to escape in that novel. But how do you feel about the family as a business? Is in that
We want
sense
as many intergenerational families now as we can. The reason
heritable,
is
elective,
What?
elective.
Elective.
Elective as in maybe perhaps meritocracy, right? You're not the best son, or you are the best son, but you're not the first son. That
Okay,
sense.
no, there's different terminology.
Sure.
It's just
That's the way I'm thinking of
you
it.
study.
5 beers in, Kurt. Sorry.
No, it's Emmanuel Todd. He does the best job of describing.
Emmanuel Todd.
He's French, but he does
Yes.
the best job of describing the different family structures in the world. The Marxists, Engels did a great job too.
He
but
did.
I prefer Emmanuel Todd because he ties it back to their crops and whatever.
Yes.
So he's better at your
Property.
Emmanuel Todd is a bit better. So the real issue is if you're in the reason you have different inheritance structures is what needs to be inherited. If you have land,
Yes.
so the way it used to work is, so let's say we're brothers, right? All
Yes.
we're brothers. So what would happen is if I'm the only one that can inherit the land, I have to be, because otherwise it doesn't stay together, right? So what do?
You split between brothers.
Every generation, we buy some new land and we give it to the church, and you guys go get jobs in the church. Now, we have a corporate office that holds family land, and with an executive office.
Exempt
People
of
talk about the
taxes.
church. You don't understand. There's no fucking difference between the guys who run the aristocracy and the nobility. In
Yeah.
the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no difference. They're the same fucking families, right? And they usually set it up like that. They're going to build them. They're going to build it, set up, create an ecclesiastical unit here so they can be the holding company for the family, right? And
Oh, yeah.
By the time the Middle
Yeah,
Ages,
yeah.
so the church owns 50% of the land.
Yeah.
right? The church owns the land, and what do? They farm the people like credit people trying to farm our people today.
Yeah.
You wonder, it's like I tell people, it's all economics. You just have to know economic history. It's like build up ways to steal from fucking people, have a revolution, reorder it, start again. It's just the same shit over and over again.
Yeah. Your question.
So I had a question in terms of the economy. So there was an interview I watched, Peter Schiff, the economist, referring to.
I shit on him once in a while.
You shit on him once in a while.
Yeah.
Shit.
So he was predicting.
It's not perfect.
We were still going to be facing economic repercussions from 2008. That what politicians and presidents have done
This man is genius.
Kind of pushed it along.
Yeah.
And
every economist in the world who's older than 14 knows this.
Yeah. So my question is, if we run into a situation where the United States does deal with an economical collapse, like he's predicting,
You mean like he's predicted every year since I've been born?
Every year.
Right.
So,
So I mean,
I can tell you when the
there's
next
not a whole
collapse
lot.
is happening.
There's not a whole lot of weight to what he's saying, but like in theory, if there was an economic devastation, would proprietarian
How
law
about cars, guys?
can proprietarian law help us to recover
Let
from
me tell you,
a
who wants
fate
to
like
know
that?
one of the great secrets of the Constitution?
Markets.
Right now, if you go study economics, what happens is money gets lent out by the Treasury, by the Fed, and into the banking system, and and they produce interest that we fight for, so they can charge us interest on it.
Okay.
So wait a minute, we just borrowed money from ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And we're paying other people money, profit on money we borrowed from ourselves. Wait a minute, does that make any sense to you?
Okay.
Well, no.
Depreciation value.
It did when it was real money, right? But now it's not. It's all money's promises, right? That's what it is. It's a network of promises. So if what we did is we took it the other way around, just like they just sent people checks, right? Whenever we would need to increase monetary supply, we would send it to citizens the same way on a debit card.
Getting that up. Go get a beer.
So you would get money all the time.
Go get a
Does that
couple
make
more
sense?
beers. It's like you
Because
started yelling
we
at Curt.
always have a shortage
angrily.
of money.
Curt, why the fuck am I
So
not
we
king?
wouldn't be fighting by credit. We'd actually be making the banks, the investors, fight for our money
Schiff thinks we're going to
by
gold.
paying us interest. Right? So this gets out of the problem of the two circles of the economy. It means that money is injected directly to consumers, and then we spend it already. Because what happens in the thing is, you have to find some reason to borrow money at an interest rate.
Yeah.
Right? Except that's a that's a high friction environment. Now, if you're a business, you've got to borrow money anticipating what customers want.
Okay.
But if we just give the customers, X amount of dollars, they'll demonstrate what they want.
And risk.
So we have this kind of crisis again. You just keep pumping money through the economy and then taxing it out.
Interest as a sort of risk, Curt. What do you have to say about interest as a guarantee of risk? Guarantor of risk. Interest is the guarantor of risk, is the claim, say. We pay.
In operational terms.
Please.
Right? The function of interest
Yeah.
is to preserve calculation between choices and time. So when I'm paying
Quote
interest,
that shit.
I'm paying you to move consumption forward or production.
Yeah, absolutely.
The difference is we need interest on production, estimation, right?
Yeah,
Risk.
yeah.
We don't need interest on consumption.
Consumption.
That's the end point.
Because consumption becomes a non-property value. Do you think? Yeah, fuck yeah, Curt. Do you think that Andrew Yang had something? Perhaps. I mean, this is wild. Do you think Andrew Yang had something in intellectual property such as cookies? That's my.
Say it again.
Okay, so in a sense of monetizing cookies, do you think that there is something there in property value? You are used for your internet. You're used for your
What are you
internet.
talking about?
Okay. You're used, not edible. You're used for
You mean
your
data,
search
you mean
history, which
data.
creates a polity or a notion of where you have been, what is profitable, it creates a market of where we should spend. Right? It creates a list, maybe not a market, but a list of where we should spend, right?
The question is, can they use data about our habits to market to us?
Yes.
My view is, yeah. And because I want that. The problem is...
Do you think it should be monetized?
What?
Monetize that.
Who monetizes it?
Anybody. The market of cookies. If you watch 14 hours of YouTube...
Stop. You're making I think I can never find this argument to be non-moral.
Okay.
The question is really simple.
Yeah. It might be ANCAP. Sorry. Go ahead.
I get marketed by things I absolutely do not want.
Yeah.
I would prefer to punish people for advertising things they don't want than to collect money on the use of my information.
Okay.
Because what I prefer is I don't want to not be marketed to. Right? You don't want to be cut out from the marketing stream.
Yeah.
It's actually useful.
So you want to be included.
You want to be included. You just only want shit you want.
Should that be monetized so to perfect this idea?
Be monetized.
Should it be a market of cookies? Should you be paid for the market of cookies, which companies profit from? Say Facebook, for example. Facebook profits. Why do they make $6 million a year? $600 million a year. Sorry. They make something in that range from simply a free-to-pay voluntary.
Why does this matter?
Why does it matter?
I think the question is essentially who owns the data that you generate?
Yeah, you own it. So should you be paid for it?
If you ask me that question, you own data about you. The problem is, I want them to have that data.
Yeah. Should you be paid for that interaction?
Why would I want them to pay for me for it? What are they going to pay me? You know what it is? Fractions of a penny.
It's consumption. You're consuming what they want you to. They're trying to figure out what you're consuming, maybe. Okay, that makes no sense.
It makes no fucking sense at all.
All right, I'll drop it.
Something different, Curt? Well, I had a question for you.
I want to get
about
that.
leads.
I'll come back to you. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, I love shitting on them anytime.
So I mean, I didn't come here because of necessarily ideas. I came here because of you, because of Shay, because of the Italian twins, because of these different guys that I've met
Brotherhood.
online. I want to put a face with them, and we're talking about we want elites to protect our interests. I'm wondering who these guys. I don't like Bush. I don't like Romney. Who are the elites?
So remember, elites are the product of a couple generations of success in the current conditions, right? So whenever you change governments, you just rotate elites. That's what it's called, the rotation of elites.
Yeah.
And so we're
Revolution.
just going to rotate, right?
Revolution.
Essentially, we're firing them. Right? I mean, it's not anymore. I mean, that's what you do, right? When you build a government, you fire your elites. You say, you're fucking, you know what? We're the shareholders, and frankly, we have all the guns. And so, we've had enough of you. You're
Chris Moyer, hold this phone.
Where do we get our new ones?
You don't have to get me. There's like a fucking army of guys like me, whatever. Step up and.
I mean, we're gonna vote for Steve Bannon for king. Even though he might have a few people executed.
I think they evolved out of the success that they.
I had a question.
How soon we want
I can't see the idea of being another. Like, I mean, is it like a year?
No.
5 months?
The
election day?
We're not going to go through an election without this problem solved.
Okay.
We are not.
No matter what anyone does, there's nothing Trump
We're
can
not
do.
going through this election without this problem solved.
Okay.
And that's why I say we're going to have a constitutional convention if we can get people to come next month. And the month after that, then we deliver the goddamn message. And it's fucking over, right? I mean, it's really that. The problem is, can you guys go get out there? Can we get out the message in that short of time? And if not, then we just got to have 100,000 guys show up and we'll go get the rest because we'll go Viking. Because I mean, you study what ISIS did, study what Mao did, study what the founders did, study what the IRA did. It's a very simple process here. It's a very big country with very few people creating the illusion of power in it. And you're extraordinary.
Yep. Chris Moyer on Facebook. He was just streaming for me. He's the fucking best dude ever. Hold up your turding to understand the concept. I'm a fan of people dogging on others for trying to win. Thumbs down on that one, Curt. What is Curt? I don't know. Please explain, Tim.
How do the ones that end up becoming the elite, how do they become?
Oh shit, this phone is hot as fuck.
How do the top 10 become the top 10 and elect?
Fred, welcome. Yeah, oh yeah, voting will for you.
Where they demonstrate success.
Yeah. The problem is we're going to cull their numbers a lot. So it's because we are. So what
Joe,
we're
what's
really
up?
saying is, how are we going to refill judgeships?
Judges.
Right?
There's going to be a lot of liars.
Well, a lot of judges won't be able to be judges anymore.
Yes, retraining or something.
We're going to do that. We're going to lose a lot of people who are able to be politicians, right? And we're going to, need governors that have real world
Five.
But aside from that, if you look at
John Mark is probably at home.
Treasury, federal, BlackRock sequence. I mean, there's some assholes in there, but honestly, if we fucking own them, there are assholes.
Yes.
Right, and so that's fine. So there's the problem is what I think will happen is if we say it only takes 300,000 people to create a new state, Richmond's going to be an island, right? And so, same with DC. There's going to be a lot of islands, and those people will naturally form and leave.
We're just fucking drunk as shit right now, honestly.
And that's what we want. We don't want to try to.
He's giving me shit about making a point, and if it didn't make sense, explaining it. Tim, I'm gonna have to have this as a sidebar conversation. It's something more complex than it's something more complex right now. To be honest, I don't
one
know.
of our incentives is
We'll talk.
If you lie or anything like this, we're coming for you first, and it's not nice. I mean, we take everything.
Yang Gang is going to be discussed. Yang will be implemented. I pray to God, in a sense.
To do those jobs.
I'm going to push that. I'm going to push it.
Telling the truth. Now, you're going to have left-wing bastions that have their typical blue clientele that try to take care of everybody, but they can't. They can do that. You just can't lie about it.
Right.
Okay. So people who are really good at producing truthfully are going to rise.
Yeah, and that's the whole secret, right?
Restoring the secret of our success.
I had a question again.
Oh, okay.
If we do get the Presbyterian Constitution, enforcement is going to be brutal.
What do you mean enforcement? We're going to create opportunities for a whole bunch of people to make money, right?
I get what you're saying.
Right? It's field day for making new lifestyles and careers, right?
Okay.
We just hung. We did the French. We didn't literally do it, but we just did the French Revolution, right? We cut off everybody's virtual head, right?
It's been happening.
The biggest problem they got to do is once we have power, we're going to start hunting these criminals down, right? And so they're going to book, and we want them to leave.
So the option to.
So there goes. Again, we're talking all we want. What makes this happen is
action.
We need 10,000 or 100,000 guys. We need those guys. If those guys show up, it's all over because you can't stop 100,000 guys.
How do you prove guys? How do you prove people who are actionable?
You want to drop your pants or something?
No. No. How many people do you think are actionable but don't quite understand what you're getting at?
I don't think they care. I think
they don't care.
There's a lot of brothers out there who just like, if you fucking guys are going, I'm going with you, and I'll do what I got.
Okay.
I've been through this already. I've been through it, and there's people who don't have any of our background at all.
Absolutely.
I just went through it. Hundreds and hundreds and thousands and more thousands of guys show up. Why? Because I get to be a fucking man for once, and I'm sick of this shit. That's why they show up.
Hell yeah. Right there and then. Right now. Today. Tomorrow.
Louisiana, there's plenty of
I know. I mean, it's like, you know how many guys there are just within like 500 miles of here?
Fuck. All right.
And it's like.
There's a lot of people ready for something.
There's a lot. They just want really what they want is leadership, and that's what you guys got.
So with the just show up part, right?
The what?
Show up.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be self-evident when to show up.
Yeah.
So where do we show up? Because that's what's
At any point.
Wait.
Oh, well.
It's operational.
OPSEC, huh?
Based on 3 conditions, right? So don't worry about it. My favorite one is here for a lot of reasons.
All right.
So I have a friend that I've been trying to talk to, and one of the things he is just hung up about is the removal of the banking thing and the whole having the whole treasury thing. Is there a way to explain that to him? Because
there's banks, there are credit unions, right? Savings and loans are basically gone. Community banks of all sizes. Most of it's up here, right? Almost all of it, right? And so they own all the infrastructure. So what we're talking about is eliminating consumer credit, credit cards, whatever, that kind of stuff. So it's all as part of it. What happens to your bank is that the assets are held there, right? So we're going to have a lot of small bank closures, and we're going to have a lot of them replaced with probably post offices or libraries, right? And because we already have the infrastructure, and they're going to fill out that the basic problem of having cash available. But really, that's all it is. Because if you want anything else, it's just online, and if you can afford it, we've got the evidence, and we'll just give it to you, right? And there's no, that's it. It's the problem right now is here's what they do. If you can afford a loan, it's statistical. It's not a choice. They don't question you at all. They got a bunch of guys who sit in
analytics.
They work it out, and they know whatever based on this data. There's an 86.547 chance of this within this many months. It's just
So it's not
let
the
me finish.
okay.
So then you have those guys doing it. That's what a loan really takes. Is just knowing. But there's no collateral anymore.
40 more
You're gonna have
people
to
in
put
there.
up your house or whatever. Right?
On the
It's
internet.
already in from the treasury. You're not taking anybody's money.
Just
on their own.
40.
So there's none of this collateralization stuff. It's just whether you can afford to make the payments. That's all there is.
On the 4th of July. It's beautiful.
So, shit, what's the original question?
Banks and treasury.
What do we do with
What's
banks?
wrong with banks?
Sure.
So, but the business banks still need to be around.
Okay, so it's not a complete eradication of banks. It's just certain.
It's taking think of it as we're getting rid of rent seeking. If it doesn't contribute to productivity, it's rent seeking. Interest on consumer loans is not contributing to productivity, it's contributing to consumption. Therefore, there's no reason for it because interest is being paid by the business channel who borrowed the money to sell to the consumers. So we want to wipe that out because if you do that, I mean, you're talking about a pretty significant boost to every family. Now, instead of your house taking you 30 years to pay off, it takes you 15, right? Right, and you own it now. Instead of having
30.
to worry about not having kids, you can. Instead of everything flows along this line. It's $1 trillion a year at least out of our people.
In interest.
So, how do what was the question I was going to ask?
So it just remember. So what we're doing is it's not taking down the banking system. It's that we're using Visa, MasterCard for the consumer banking process. They still keep their world stuff, but they're getting money from you right from the treasury. They're managing it, and we're buying an interest in them to do it. American Express already manages the business sector. We do the same thing with American Express, right? And except now we extend the carry lines to businesses to cover all these other things, right? Which they normally have, so that we have crises. We keep the consumers and the businesses alive, right? Right. So we had no more. So we don't have this problem of crises, right? We have this problem of nobody's going to starve to death or end up in Black Lives Movement or something because. Right. So we get rid of that problem. Now the entire business structure still works because interest is in the service of production is necessary to move time, to measure the cost of moving time forward.
Depreciation.
Gotcha.
I got one for you, Kurt.
It's like, why don't they? I mean. We can teach this stuff, we can teach this to 14-year-olds, right?
Sure.
It's not. Why don't they freaking teach it? You can teach basic reciprocity and contract law to a fucking 8-year-old.
They want to rob you.
Ignorance is
They
the key
want
to
to rob you.
Ignorance is the key to tyranny.
Elementary grade, level 6.
Actually, we should do that. We should develop an 8-year-old curriculum.
Yeah, because it's not complicated,
And then
right?
give it to my dad.
Oh,
Ow. Man, you hit with that one.
Okay, so
I actually had a question.
hit me.
A
Go on.
question
Yeah.
about the banking system. So, do you think under a regime where the Treasury approves or denies applications for loans to houses and the auto market, if I'm understanding that correctly, do you think that the credit market would be looser or tighter than it is now?
So I didn't finish my story. Thank you. You just reminded me what. No. That's what I fucked up. I said, what did I just say? Because I lost it. That's what it was. So now, instead of saying, I know statistics on each of you, and I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is this guy's statistics over here come back shit, right? So I'm going to loan to him anyway, right? Because if I make enough of those, I get some income in from it, then despite all the failures, whatever. So I distribute the losses to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Right? So
No?
try again. Okay, because I jumped too many steps because Okay, so let's say they pool all the money. So your X risk, they just pool it all together. But they're happy to fuck over all these other people, take them to court, seize their shit, and whatever. I mean, if you look at, I'm going to be in politics, if you look at how the Jews did it, they charge 300% interest on you for your farm. Why did they do that? Because they can seize your farm and then sell the farm. Yeah. What did it cost them? Whatever you didn't pay back. Yeah. Well, how do you think they build up all the property and made the people throw them out?
Parasitism.
So it's that. So it's 300% interest on that kind of stuff. It's the biggest one is, which is the Russian one, is selling alcohol on credit. Well, fuck, you sell alcohol on credit to a Russian peasant. I mean, you're basically addicting him to alcohol.
Oh yeah.
He's fucking ruined. So he send it on credit. Now he loses his fucking village plot.
Is that really a thing?
No, that's why they got killed on the Russians.
Fuck. Saul's notion of middleman races. Please discuss that if you could, or if you know what I'm talking about. Notion of middleman races such as Armenians, such as Lebanese in the Congo and in South America.
What is the question?
Do you think it's only a Jewish strategy, or do you think it's more a role?
It's a Middle Eastern strategy.
Middle Eastern, okay. Okay. Armenians are Middle Eastern. Yeah, okay, go with it.
Well, Semitic strategy.
Semitic.
Thank you. It's a Semitic strategy. It's not. And it's old. I mean, the Jesus is throwing the fucking table around for this reason.
Yeah, he flipped shit because he realized something higher.
I keep bringing this up, but when Aesop, right, it's a fucking long time ago, wrote Hermes in the Card of Lies. Hermes goes through and ends up in prison, handing out lies around the world. But when he gets to the Arabs, they fucking steal the whole card.
Yeah.
Right? It's why. It's because you're a tribal guy. You have you live in an unproductive territory.
Sure.
Right? There are only a few strips of land that are highly profitable. The kings come in and conquer a new one every couple of generations, right? And so you're basically shit.
Right.
Right? And so what do? They develop the infinite low trust polity.
Okay. Do you think perhaps there's an oligarchy among the Middle Eastern strategies? Do you think that there's maybe
gypsies steal
the Saudis are competing with perhaps the Jews or something like that?
No, the Saudis.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Saudis have a gold mine, and they're living off it, right? Iran wants the Saudi gold mine. If Iran can get the Saudi gold mine, it can take Syria, Iraq, and Iran, basically recreate the empire. They can use
power
monopoly on oil fields to create a bourse, which lets them replace the American dollar as a reserve currency. That's what their plan is.
Right.
It's not like rocket science. Every intelligence guy in the world knows this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's what they want to do. I mean, it's really simple. They're like, and besides the fact that the mullahs are fucking crooks, right? They're just gangsters in turbans. I mean, a religious garb.
How do you prevent bureaucracy from spreading throughout proprietarianism with a market of lawyers who are trained in our ways, right? So how do you prevent bureaucracy from spreading as necessity? You can't.
The secret to state is a really simple cycle.
Okay.
There's a problem. The market can't solve it. Put a bureaucracy together to force the market to be able to produce this product.
Sure.
As soon as it's successful, it starts getting corrupt, privatize it. Move on. As soon as it fails, repeat process. I mean, this is state management right there. That's all there is to it.
Sure, yeah.
Right? It's no magic. The trick is you need a militia or an army.
Is that going to be written?
We can do it, and the Chinese can do it, and the Indians can.
Is that going to be written into the Constitution?
You know, that's a really good idea. I have it in the introduction to explain it, but I should probably put it in there somewhere.
Okay.
That was actually something I was going to ask. A lot of military guys that listen to some of this stuff, they absolutely adore when they understand the parts about the military policy. Like, what's the reason behind that?
Of course, the big thing is, if your commanders are playing politics rather than men, they're gone, right? That's
sure.
The men can do that, right? The second thing is, we've told you have to pay market wages instead of suppressed wages, right? So guys who go in the military get market wages, right? The third thing is that the rules of engagement are determined at the local level, right?
Yes.
Somewhat.
Oh, I heard the rules of engagement. You said that before.
Sorry, Kurt.
And it made a deep impact. I'd love to hear it.
I have to disagree, honestly.
What?
I have to disagree.
No, hold on,
Sorry, I'll get you
I
in there.
don't want it telling you to go run a police force where you get fucking shot at.
Right.
That period.
Okay. The disagreement is market wages. This gentleman told me, as I've experienced, $27,000 a year. That's your wages as a soldier, as a Marine, as we were. And so he said he went to the civilian side, right? How much do you make as a civilian doing the same thing?
You don't do
You make 110,000. You do roughly the same thing.
I understand.
Right. So what is the difference between 27,000 and 110,000? What is the difference there?
I don't understand what you're asking me.
So there's a difference. The market wage for a soldier, someone who fills that role, is $27,000 when you're enlisted and tied to a contract that is time oriented, and then the market wage when you can quit any day. You wake up, you say fuck it, I quit. 110,000. Why do they give such leniency in the market wages between soldierhood? You know, like between in soldiering.
I don't understand what you're saying.
No, he's talking about what he's talking about. Why
the market wages of a military.
One soldier. It's just the only difference is they're.
I feel like they're maybe getting benefits.
Because you went to college.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, you went to college.
Sure. So the college is part of the benefits
Yeah,
that
the
compensates.
military's college. You paid for college. You got paid a low wage for college.
Okay.
You go out in the private sector. The problem is, it's not. It's about. If I look at the right, it's three levels too low.
Yes.
Right. And so if I say at a minimum, it has to go up 3 levels, and then you sort of get people there. So when I mean a market wage, I mean we need people to choose to go in the service because. Not
it's
because
desirable.
they're starving, right? Because it's desirable. Because it just keeps the quality. The other thing is we want more men to want to go in because it makes you fucking men and there's
prestigious.
Like a way
Yeah.
to make it.
Oh yes.
So we want more guys in the service. So we want to pay them better. So whatever. So I'm like, people say, "What the cost of that?" You fucking asshole! What's the cost of men who aren't men?
Yeah, that's a good.
How do you price?
Damn.
How do you price the shit we live in?
Good.
Because we don't
Good.
have men who are men.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's like the price that you can see and the price that you can't figure out how to measure. It's like so fucking stupid. You know what I mean? All this stuff. If you understand just the underlying economics,
Absolutely love what you're
it's
saying, Kurt.
fucking stupid. It makes me so exasperated.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that on our behalf, as service members.
It's you go in the military. There's a point. You want to get these young guys. They go out. They've got college, right?
Yeah.
But then they could turn the whole fucking military education system into college instead of turning the military into. I don't want to kill people in lots of numbers.
Sure.
Right, and so I mean, and then you have this thing where you get fucking officers out there. I hear from guys all the time. This fucking guy, he's a fucking Obama appointee, and he couldn't care what happened to us.
In the army, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
Are we
Madison's a
being
good
watched?
hero.
I like that.
He's not.
Do like the upper.
You have a point. You have a point. Infiltration happens at all levels.
That they're aware of what you or what proper terrain is.
Not yet.
And I don't think Mattis is an infiltrator.
Yeah, so
they're going to be aware when there's
We're not on a
100,000
list or
of us
anything.
coming through a town, and we wipe out this entire productive inventory of every business in town. So it's basically keeping ourselves fed.
So we're not like on a list.
What?
We're not on a list that you know.
We're all on the list.
We're all on a list. I've been on a list since 2013.
I was
Man.
on the list before I was a proper terrain.
If you met me,
I got on
you're on
the
a
C
list.
list back in
The what list?
the C list. There's A, B, C.
I'm
So
about
A, B, A list is if the president's coming to town,
Knowledge.
they put you in a cell.
Sure. Yeah, good.
What?
Okay.
The B list is they sort of want to know where you are, and the C list is if you show up, they don't want to let you in.
Ah,
Right?
okay.
All right, so you
that's
get
the
on this
list.
and they go away. Right?
They do, maybe.
All right. So the problem is, and I know enough about this, is that if you look at what intelligence does, they think we're cute.
Sure,
Do you understand?
I do.
They think we're cute. We're patriots. Patriots don't cause problems.
No.
They have meetings. That's really what it is. If you go through if they leak because you can find this in the leaks, if your name isn't Abdul Adul whatever, and you're not talking to somebody in Pakistan on a cell phone every 2 weeks, they're no fucking paying attention to you. And
It's
if you're
beautiful.
not using the word like bomb or fuckers and blow them up, whatever.
They didn't get the memo about the Cold War ending.
Right.
I missed that. Yeah.
The problem is, you know, when I was sort of vaguely involved,
You don't have to take it, but I'm offering you a chair.
Yeah, thank you. When I was vaguely involved in working, we had the Vietnam era had passed, and they gutted the intel organization, right? So we only had a few hundred guys in the field. When we hit the Islamic insurrections, right? We didn't have any guys we didn't have any human intelligence. And they went purely SIGINT. And so we had no human intelligence. So what they've been trying to do is ramp up. Now, I'm not going to say what I was involved in, but I was involved in some of that stuff. Right?
Sure.
And so it's still very signal intelligence oriented and bump oriented. In other words, can I get a meeting with somebody and because they don't think, they only think about is I want to understand the mind of this person.
Yeah, you're live streaming. You want a chair?
What's that? What do I want to
Are you
share?
live streaming?
I am. Oh, a chair? No, I'm good. I'm set. Don't worry.
So,
you know, we can do shit. Not everything has to be a fucking serious.
You want me to take over, Kurt?
What I want is water.
I got what? I got a
We got a bunch of Gatorades over there.
oatmeal.
Gatorade? Gatorade? We got Gatorade?
Yeah, we got a
We do.
Give me a Gatorade.
What flavor?
Give me a Gatorade.
Well,
Whatever
that's
flavor
all.
it is.
That's
I
all
didn't answer
I
whatever it was last year. I forgot.
Whatever color you call it.
You're in a list.
The military thing. So when you on the local level,
No, I don't mean that. What I mean is that they can't set. They cannot send you in to a system where you are cannon fodder. This policing shit is over. Right, it's not right. They're sending our guys in there where they can't defend themselves. I mean, my nephew, he's all fucked up.
It's good. That shows that you have, skin in the game. That you have a nephew that you care about,
Yeah, he's a good guy. Right?
and you're directing policy in that direction, even though perhaps the evidence suggests otherwise. Do you think or no?
I just look at data, dude.
Data,
There's like
okay.
a bunch of military think tanks. They put shit out and I fucking read it. Right? It's not complicated.
Okay.
Everybody knows the problem.
Right.
There's no way to fix these problems
Sure.
because the power distance is too great, the bureaucracies are too big. So we fix the underlying problem, and these problems are all fixable. I mean, the whole idea of just anyway, you know what it's like. Who's been over there? Who's been over there? Right? It's fucking hard over there. Do they want us over there?
No.
No, all right? Are we going to be fucking heroes? Are we going to win?
No. Unless, see, this is an argument to make. All war is genocide.
What?
All war is genocide. I've decided this.
Yeah.
I have. What is your counter argument, maybe? Or do you agree?
Wars for profit are incredibly profitable, but you have to win.
Still, territorial control is what is profit, right? Property control is what is profit.
Yeah, it's got to be profitable.
And how do you profit if you have a minority population that disagrees with everything you say?
Well, you do it the way everybody in history has done.
Genocide.
You
See,
either
I
move
agree.
them somewhere.
Move them somewhere.
Right? No, that's what they've done.
Sure,
Relocation
sure.
is a big thing in history.
Sure,
You
yeah.
just make them go away.
Disappear. Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually in history.
It's harsh, but
humans
it's the truth.
Humans are valuable enough in
Yeah.
most of history to move them somewhere.
Yeah.
The fucking Russians did. I mean, it was people all over the goddamn place.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned so much studying how the Soviets did things.
Yeah.
If they hadn't talked their shit, right? If they hadn't talked their stupid shit and basically handed the place over to gangsters, they could have gotten out of it. It was just terrible. They had a great education system. They had better technology than we did, right? They had a very powerful, influential central bureaucracy, but they were trying to manage a government, satellite they weren't able to do. If they'd have just brought it down, kept the Kazakh oil fields,
You don't think that they were at all competing beyond their means?
No, that's what I said. The minute they went into Eastern Europe, they're trying to take on more than they can manage. But internally, their strategy wasn't that bad. I mean, it was the problem is they had forgotten now how to turn back to the phase 2, which is how do I reprivatize the government. And they basically, what happened is, on the night that they were thinking about doing it, the guys all showed up from Belarus, from the different regions, and said, "Let's just kill you because I want my gangster land."
I have a question.
Interesting.
you think that Semitic people in general can feasibly coexist with the rest of us? Should things trend the way we hope them to? Can they coexist with us at all?
Islam.
I'll be right back, bud.
Oh, you want me to hold this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just you gotta grab right up here.
Oh, my bad.
Thank you.
I believe it's reformable and that our laws can suppress while maintaining I believe that if we implement the right laws, they get their power by abusing the law. We don't have the proper guarantees of provides. If that law goes away and their entire civilization is built on cultivating people in the hazard in order to destroy the commons, if we take that away, they're either going to leave or they can do it again, or they're going to die. And you know, and when you talk to Jews that are in the third generation, and they're like not into that shit. So I mean, it depends. If you live in New York and you're part of a ritually Jewish family, especially a traditional one, then you're going to have that behavior. But the Muslims are just as bad. They don't integrate, and they can't, because that whole thing is completely alien to our existence. I mean, the purpose of Islam is to destroy identity, nationality, self-determination, and truth. That's what it is. Well, no, I agree, but it's been proper.
I like it. I like it.
They don't just destroy it.
Exactly.
So, you know, there is no other group that's compatible with us. There isn't, because no one else can do it. On the other hand, because it's an incredibly high, producing a high trust quality, we're the only people that do it. I mean, the Japanese and South Koreans are pretty close, but producing a high, it's fucking expensive. It's not like being, you know, in the Jewish or Asian communities where you're doing a high investment for the family. Right? Because it's all controllable costs. But when you're high investment in the commons, you're like going costs forever. Like everybody has to bear an these incredible normative burdens in order to benefit from the peaceful commons we get. It's a very indirect thing.
So why is it that Jews have a hard time like having land and things like that? They seem to be like the only
socialists. They like to work. They like to work like women. Right? And they're good at it because they're cognitively female. That's what they did. That's why they're so good at what they can work endlessly like women. They can gossip endlessly like women. And they do. And they undermine endlessly like women. So they're cognitively female, which is in their health statistics and their homosexuality statistics and behavioral statistics. So I mean, you can hear it in their voices, right? I mean, you're cognitively female. So you just realize when you're dealing with them, you're dealing with a hyper-aggressive female. Right? That's what you're dealing with. When you realize that, it's like you see it everywhere, and you just sort of account for it. Well, you start noticing. It's really simple. Well, the problem is you gotta outlaw the behavior so they can't get away with it on their common people who don't understand.
You're doing good shit, bud. Thank
You
you.
have to outlaw things being a hazard, so you're taking it way beyond usually. It's like anything. Basically,
Thank you.
it's
I know you're the youngest guy here.
whatever happened to that fucking guy,
Do you have a following on any social media? Well, I'm streaming. You on?
What's the account?
26. It's not much. Jared Marma.
No.
Facebook.
What's your name on there?
Marma. Where the white woman? Where the white woman?
Or outside, or so I can.
Not gonna work that way. It's gonna work like
JARROD.
Well, first of all, the problem is, you know, Russia will be doing everything in their power to help us. So will China. So everybody, really, honestly.
Yeah, thanks. I can't accept it while I'm live streaming. I just found that out, so just follow the live stream. I mean, you're here.
I'm gonna watch it later.
Well, no, they would like us to see.
Like, if I accept your friend request while I'm live streaming, cancel the fucking live stream. It's goofy.
So I think I'm
Framing.
not really worried about
Oh man,
what
I love you.
What
I love you, Tim.
about is some of our guys doing,
Tim, you understand framing.
We get a bunch of new guys in. Somebody does something stupid that burns a group. Does that make sense? So I don't want
resignate.
What?
harming of innocence.
No, I mean, we get somebody in here, right? We talk to them, they get involved. They turn out to be a fucking idiot and does something stupid that burns us with them.
107 IQ.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. So we want adult men who can make fucking grown-up decisions.
We want managers, Kurt. No?
Exactly.
Is that honestly what you're trying to do? Managers. 120 IQ managers, at least. That's something else. That's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. If you're here, you're a manager, or you're a manager quality.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to manage the fucking retards, honestly. Well, you can phrase it how you want politically, but I will say retards.
It's called Private Joe?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Kurt didn't say retards, I said retards.
Let's say we end up in conflict and this becomes like a major civil deal.
We're not already there.
What happens? It does seem like there's a lot of weight rested on you. Like if something were to happen to you, we have fail safes to prevent proprietarianism from
Hell
dying.
yes. Hell yes.
The work won't die. I'm not immune to the fact that I have low charisma, and so that's a hard thing to come by.
Low charisma.
So the problem is their elites can't fight.
Punch yourself in the
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right, and so the problem is finding another one. For my work, absolutely positively, Martin can do my work.
Martin.
Martin can do my work. And he's
Would
done-
Martin qualify as not being an Anglo? He's a Slav. He is. Sure. So what you're saying basically, and I want to just get your yes or no, this idea is an intelligence thing, not a cultural thing.
No, it's just an IQ problem.
IQ problem. Absolutely. Okay.
There's no, you guys, I got a following among
Martin's fucking genius, by the way.
He is. I got a following among Egyptians, right? You guys know that?
I understand that, yeah, absolutely. I found out about you almost through an Arab group.
It's Arab.
Lebanese.
I got a big Arab following.
Yeah.
I could make an equally large Arab following, right? Arab speaking following. Because they hate that shit. They want it done. They're not stupid. They're fucking as tired as we are.
Absolutely. They probably dealt with worse rule.
How can we solve the problem? Like, it's not quite as bad as Africa, but you've got this not the same problem. How do you get the people to the bottom stop breeding long enough so you have you can make a Pareto pyramid, and until then, you're going to have a problem. Until you can get rid of the mullahs in Iran, you're not going to be able to take the Persians, which realistically should be roughly equal to us. Their demographics aren't as good, but roughly equal to us, and fucking, restore the Middle East. But as soon as you have them there and they want to build the caliphate, they're the fucking plague of the earth. If they weren't a
Martin
caliphate,
is
we
watching.
wouldn't care probably if they took over.
Let's just stroke his ego.
Did I just say that with a
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Martin's watching, and I just called him a genius, and he didn't even laugh react. He's being a cunt right now, to be honest.
I love Martin because he's as humble as shit in person.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He's as arrogant a prick as I am in person.
So here's a concept.
Brutal sometimes.
What?
You can be brutal to some.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that anarchist on that interview.
Oh yeah.
Man, that dude did.
Walter Blank.
Stand a chance in that
I was being nice to him.
Yeah. He was being courteous. So here's one. I was thinking about the problem of, to be very frank, you have 20 to 15 years of life left.
No, I know.
Truth.
I don't have that long problem.
I hope so, Kurt. But you have 20 to 15 years. Can we implement proprietarianism in 20 to 15 years, or do we create a market of Kurts? Is that the solution? A market of Kurts?
No, we have to create. That's why we want.
Are we actively part of a market of Kurts? Is this it?
There's a minimum amount of work that has to be done. The minimum amount of work is to finish what we're doing here, produce it, and to build the courseware to teach people. Martin can teach the foundations. Once 3 or 4 groups of guys have gone, there'll be one per group who can do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not unlearnable, right? You just need to have a certain kind of brain to do that shit.
Right.
And we'll get them. And so it's just like learning any other calculus.
Fucking lot of responsibility.
John Mark is doing a pretty good job understanding your stuff as time goes on.
John is in that.
John's a marketing guy.
IQ works, right? There's a group of people who synthesize with super nerd stories. Does that make sense? And so they're the people who write books. If you read a book, it's not by the guy who invented it. It's written by the guy who interviewed the guy who invented it. Because the guys who think of shit, they don't write books.
Yes.
pound it.
That's good.
So really good at interpreting.
He's fucking messaging me. I'm banned. I can't come in to react.
So he's got that gift.
What about,
and he also empathizes with people.
you're old.
He can relate, right? And so he's got the gift.
I love you, Martin.
That's why I said it's turned out. We don't like tell people we don't like assign jobs. I mean, the reason Brandon's in charge is because he took charge.
Yeah. Responsibility and taking
Yeah,
it.
I don't give out assignments, right? If you want to fucking show up, you do it. Maurice went away, came back, and all of a sudden he's editing shit, right?
Yes.
Some guys want to hear start a party. Eli certainly does. I think we should start a proprietarian party. The minute we do that, we start getting funding, right? And so I think we should start a proprietarian party.
What do you think? What do you think about this stupid question? Very stupid question. I've been mulling.
Ask me a stupid question. Yeah,
I will. I'll be the guy. I'll be the guy to do it, and I'll be the guy to ask the question. Should we establish, much like L. Ron Hubbard, a religion? Would that be feasible? We already did. I think, in my mind, we did establish something that is trying to create a crusade against the religion that exists, which is the culture, right?
Here's my dream. Right?
Yeah.
I would tell you my fantasy if I lived to 80, right?
Sure, yeah. If I lived to 80.
I've had 2 cancers, a serious in between them and a serious illness after them.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly the picture of strength right now.
Sure.
Right? So, whatever.
Pretty vital.
My family lives to be over 100 usually, so maybe I'll make it.
Hell yeah.
My dream is I finish this shit up, I get the university, I need to get
Academies.
the academy running, and we have enough interest that we can hire the people to build out the rest of the courses.
Martin is a genius.
That basically restores Western civilization's education system to war, right? Politics, philosophy, war, and law, right?
Yeah.
Just restore that. That's what I want to see. The next thing I want to do is to get the Muslim world. They think about Aristotle almost like they think about the Prophet.
Like what?
Great, Muhammad.
They think about Aristotle very close to how they think about the Prophet.
I have noticed this.
I want to
Agree.
take Aristotle and write him in proprietarian prose, right? And there's got other guys that want to help me do that. If I could do that, then we have a big answer.
A lot of what you said has actually encouraged me to go and read more Aristotle.
If you haven't, you will.
Yeah. Stoicism is essentially the secular.
Yes, Stoicism is just secular religion.
Yes.
That's all it is. Because the purpose of religion is to give you mindfulness, so that you can tolerate and advance society. That's what it exists for. So that it makes it tolerable to be basically anonymous. Mm-hmm. And so
secular
Stoicism
religion
is an incredibly. It was our Western religion being made. It was our counter. So we had Stoicism on one side, which is basically for the stronger people, and you had Epicureanism, which is basically for the hippie people.
Yeah. Chill, all right. I got into Epicureanism when I was young. I got into Epicureanism when it's a lot of thinking about death, which is the whole.
No.
Okay.
I don't get into that. I mean,
okay.
There's underneath these strategies you can describe it in scientific terms.
Yeah,
tell you.
absolutely.
Epicureanism, you will only be happy in life with friends, family, and living within your means.
Yes.
Right. That's Epicureanism.
Yes.
Right. Stoicism.
And leaving a legacy.
Yes. That's family. Stoicism is these people that have opinions. They actually are meaningless. I just need to get shit done.
Stoicism is the first step to egoism, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, of course, right. It's
right.
But it's basically. I thought originally when I met Peterson, I'm like, okay, he's going to try to invent Stoicism, but he can't get this fucking Middle Eastern shit out of his head, and so you can't make him do it.
He doesn't agree with it either, which is the dumbest shit. So he doesn't agree with it, and he can't get rid of it.
Well, you know why? He's a therapist.
Yeah.
So he uses parables for suggestion. And it's fine. It's okay. Just don't use those. They're fucking awful.
You were gonna say?
So it doesn't. Oh.
You're on it.
James Bond, Scott.
That sounds awfully familiar.
Vietnam era POW. I'll link you some of his writings. I think you'll find it worthwhile.
Is he Perot's vice president?
He was Perot's vice president.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, now
back up. Here you go.
So it doesn't sound like a proprietarian Islam is possible. That doesn't make sense.
Again, proprietarianism, right? We use that word to talk about 6 things, right?
Yes.
There's the formal logic of law, right? That's one piece. There's the insight it provided into Western civilization. There's the Constitution we derived from it, and there's the fact that you can build any government you want with it.
Yeah.
So when you say that, I'm like, well, you can build any government you want with it, including an Islamic one.
Yeah.
It just has to be truthful.
The original Islamic government had incorporated and fully actuated distributism, in my humble opinion. It did through their churches, through their mullahs, whatever, and that becomes corrupt because the mullahs have power, right? So here's a weird question: what do you do to distribute power amongst the bureaucrats, the middle level managers? What does proprietarianism do for that? Mullahs are only community managers. So no. Mullahs are the same as.
Mullahs manage spirits, so they don't manage economies.
Really?
That's
okay.
really it, right?
And through.
They basically keep people down.
Okay.
Once you realize that, then you know how horrible that fucking religion is.
And through their conquest, they achieved distributism, though. That's almost actual. They conquested enough to pay out all their debts in the early eras, the 700s, 600s.
Well, I mean, if you tell them the Romans did too.
The Romans as well, yeah, absolutely.
So, Jan, do you think the deep state, once it sees what it has to lose, will start getting really nasty?
Well, you think they're going to give up easily? Why do I tell you? We negotiate a settlement to hold the moral high ground so that when they say fucking no, we have moral license. I mean, it's not a complex fucking theory, right? Yeah. It really is. We hold the moral high ground. That's why I say don't let fucking assholes in here, under our name.
That's why so we need to be like Obi-Wan from Star Wars Episode 3. We need to take the high ground.
You just scared me, man. And I'm a nerd and all, but that's more than I can do.
Episode 3 is really important for this generation. It's part of the prequels.
Star Wars, guys.
It's called Revenge of the Sith.
Break out the Baby Yoda plushie.
Except for 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6, that's fine. The rest of it isn't Star Wars.
The aggression will not stand. Okay.
Lucas did 1, 2, and 3, but 3 is where he.
The only, it's the same thing. Star Wars was okay. Yeah. It's the Empire Strikes Back. One is because he didn't fucking write it.
Yeah. So all of it was because this is just me being a dickhead.
It's like Ridley Scott making his name
right.
off of things that Stan O'Bannon. I mean, it's the same shit,
Yeah. How many lawsuits did George Lucas have against him when they all said no, maybe not, maybe he didn't steal every single concept? Digression.
Yeah, we're getting off topic.
We definitely are. Good job. You did it.
Sorry, I was just trying to.
When people start like that, it's usually something like, can I get you on record as saying something that's really funny, but if it gets on the internet, it's like that fucking clip of me making a joke about making a Molotov cocktail. Everybody puts that on their list.
Really?
Cut it out of context. It's like me giving instructions on how to make a Molotov. No, I was just trying to make the point that we're not weak.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the proportions of the Molotov cocktail.
I mean, we're in there, right? There's a
kerosene or gas.
we're in Maidan, right? It's a big square, right? It's beautiful. It's complete. So it's a souvenir of great buildings, great Stalin architecture, and a big statue and shit. And they're like tearing up the road to throw bricks, the whole thing. But
put it in reverse, Terry.
They've got guys and girls who go out to the suburbs and find bags of beer bottles.
Krigo, what's up?
They bring them in cars, right? They hand them off to guys who bring them into the center. The guys in the center go around to cars, siphon gas into tanks, go over and then do it. And there's some other guy ripping up T-shirts and shit that they've stolen from a clothing store over here, stuffing it in bottles, and then there's guys, and they just go. There's like runners, and it's the typical skinny athlete guy. It's like these guys that are, they're 160 pounds maybe, and they can run all day, and they're like grabbing 3 of these fucking things, throwing them at cops and coming back. It's like 6 guys doing it, right? It seems like there's hundreds.
Yeah. Because there is.
What?
It's a chain.
It was a chain. It was, and then we go in and they're like, I love it. I mean, I love these people. They've taken over the government office, and you walk in the door, and there's a guy with an anvil and sheet steel pounding out metal shields, like forming the curve by hand. Like, I don't know how to love you people more.
Okay, so Martin asked, should he move to America into your attic? No, I'm just fucking with you. Martin said he's getting to a point where he would love to move here physically. What do you say to that?
Let's get an apartment together.
Let's get an apartment together, Martin. All right. Literally, the only thing I'd really miss is the Presbyterians that he has and the Czech Republic. That's Martin to you. He's ready.
You know, he's the guy, right?
Right.
When you ask him a question, he might ask me once in a while, but the truth is he's never not got the right answer.
Oh yes.
Once you get it,
it's been there for a while. And it's scary.
Yeah,
it's scary.
He's got it right.
He's like he could take over your accounts.
No, he really could. You just gave me an evil idea.
Retirement, huh? That's evil. Oh boy.
Are you a Christian? And if yes,
not in Czech Republic.
What does that mean?
In Europe.
Okay.
I know no one here in Czechia. All right, sorry, Martin. Sorry to misrepresent you.
Civilization is an Aristotelian, a Christian, a heathen, and a pagan in some order, right? And it's just a priority. Now, a Christian's going to say he's first and foremost above all. Right? That's it, right? Now, I'm going to say first and foremost I'm an Aristotelian.
Right.
But the way you know, if you go around the world, Christians are really obvious because they have a particular ethic. I'm obviously Christian.
He's not gonna see this, Michelle. Stop! It's just me.
I'm a Christian, and then says,
Terry, throw it in reverse.
I was raised in the Catholic Church and went through all the sacraments.
Hell yeah!
Can I ask you to specify on that? What's the Christian ethic according to Jesus? According to Jesus, in your opinion.
Wow.
What is that?
I made too much. I might be able to do this off the top of my head.
Right. Chug.
Jesus' solution is the answer to the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
It's the optimum solution to social cooperation.
Oh.
And if you learn enough about a prisoner's dilemma, there's only one winning strategy, and that's to forgive all the fucking time until you know better. Right? So that's what Christianity is forgiveness, because it's the optimum strategy. It turns out that's how you win people over and over again. So what happens though is you're already
I don't know if you have something to ask next, but
Nah, you go ahead.
Feedback loop on its fucking genius, right? So it gives you. The second thing is if you have your faith, people can't criticize you. Because mindfulness is what it's trying to provide. All religions try to provide. When we were, this many guys, and we were all family, and we went hunting together, there's a certain trust among everybody.
Yeah.
So the only purpose of religion, it's not really religion, of mysticism, is to explain things. But the minute you turn out to where, you had the problem where religion comes from, is the Indians and the Iranians, is that they're trying to make an enemy of each other. You need to have religion as a law.
Get something from over there anyway.
And so it's an indoctrinated system. So what they did is they took the Initiatic Brotherhood of Soldiers, which we all feel today. I felt it when we were today, right? We took that and that ritual and we made a religion out of it. Right? So that's really what it is. And so that's where religion comes from. The purpose of religion is by what the Buddhists call mindfulness. What it really is that you have
Brandon Hayes.
You're not worried about your status as mind at all. Like you guys are all my brothers now, right? That's how my body feels. But most people, especially the more empathic you are, you're extremely conscious of status competition.
Right.
So the problem is that the further you are at the bottom, the more shit you feel like. Right? And so what Christianity does, it makes a way for Achilles, right? Our guys we're Achilles, right? We're the heroes, right?
Mm.
But because we're strong.
Our tendon.
But how do the meek be heroes? That's how. And so they took the strategy, because they knew what they were doing. They took the strategy of Achilles and they flipped it to the meek. right? So you're Jesus, Achilles for the strong and Jesus for the meek. And they made it possible now for a virtuous underclass, which has never existed before. And so now I can have high status just like those guys over there because I'm doing good. It's fucking genius. So and I'm only touching the surface. I mean, I could spend like 4 days talking about this easily. It's a really genius strategy. But
no brands
if you understand what
in the
mind
area
is doing, I mean, it's the reason we know we have a status engine in our head, right? Is how we measure things, and the other thing is measuring our shit, right? What we own. And there's not many variables in the brain, I mean, that influence us. We just create all these stories to justify all these variables. So Christianity is a fucking awesome thing. Scientifically, it's the best religion. The problem is that it's told by Jewish means. That's what I wish I could find out, and I can't. Because why? Because the people need to believe that faith to have that mindfulness. So what it really is some of us are Stoic Christians and some of us are Christian Christians. I mean, it's really that much. And that what that Stoic means is I just know I'm doing the right thing, and I don't need anybody else's fucking approval because we're men and because we have low agreeableness, right? But those people, they have higher agreeableness. They
is it related?
And it's something they can master. So I don't want to disrespect anybody, but I mean, you can learn about all sorts of shit about the Bible. You don't need 140 IQ.
Everyone gets a trophy.
Well, you can feel confident about your life decisions. And if it's survived in the Bible for that long, it's probably not an altogether bad decision. So it just works. It's a wisdom literature. It works. And so you don't want to deny people that thing. On the other hand, I would like to produce a synthetic European religion, right, that covered the spectrum, that had all these pieces. And it was restored Achilles and the vision.
Curt,
and it was a little closer to our pagan origins.
Could you be the next one? That's stupid. That's stupid.
No, so you see, I told me what I want to do. My dream is Aristotle and that.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's my dream. And I added Aristotle late, is to finish the stuff, get the school going on, and I'm going to be 80 years old.
Sure.
Away on my fucking typewriter, trying to figure out how to write a scripture. It's not a scripture, but how to write a religion that combines, heathenism, the hearth religion of the family, the paganism, which is the martial, our military tradition, and the Christian tradition, which is the meat tradition. And I want to be able to preserve that. If I could just get enough Christians to have balls again, like they used to once in a while.
I've got balls, and I'm Christian.
There we go. We need to have Christians with balls. Fuck, but these guys call up me and they'll talk like fucking women. And they say, satisfying. I'm like, fuck you, Brady, bring it to the goddamn table. Don't ask me to satisfy your ass. So, when I get this, I'm a Christian because I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not an atheist. So, I'm a Christian, but I'm just more Aristotelian than I am. And I know that, it's sort of like liberals have one moral nerve and conservatives have 6. And we treat them all the same, but they got 1. So everything's about that thing. We sort of balance everything out, right? When I'm like, well, I have the same thing. I have like these basic religious precepts in my mind, and I sort of weight them equally.
Riley.
So in other words, like Stoic Christian doesn't necessarily mean you believe in the faith, but the practices of its truth.
If you follow, read Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson didn't believe anything miracle about it. Anything. He was a philosopher. He had a freaking idea, and he told it to people in their language.
Brilliant.
Right? That's it. He wrote the Jefferson Bible, cutting the Bible up into pieces and saying there's no miracles, it's all it is. Yeah. And that's the kind of Christian I am, right?
Okay.
And the thing is, it's true. I mean, there isn't a better strategy than continuous forgiveness.
Who came up with that strategy?
I don't think they do what they were doing. Christianity, there isn't.
So you think they didn't know what they were doing, but they came up with the best possible strategy?
It was a collective idea.
They had to. Think about it as incentives. It just worked, right?
So by they, who do you mean?
The early Christians. They just went around and loved. It's like
church fathers.
Tell you love people today, right? If you go around and fucking tell you I'm loving you, I'm for here with love. I mean, if you're around people who don't have a lot of shit, it works.
So you don't think Jesus was a divine messenger of the perfect solution?
No. Okay, hold on. 2 things. We don't know if there's a will behind the fundamental laws of the universe. Those fundamental laws, we know enough about them to know there's no extra space in there. There's nothing else going on. Right. So the choice that you have to choose between
predictions. No, it's not predictions. It's not a predictor. Gambling is dumb.
Or that the universe can only, by various permutations.
Damn, Terry, you coming at me with some hard shit, bro.
Calculate these things, right? So when you say that, I mean, well, it depends. If the universe calculated him, he's the result of that calculation, and the calculation was true. Right, so I'm like, it doesn't matter to me which way you believe it. Right? If you believe it like I did, which it calculated the right answer, and therefore it's the will of God, right? Because God is this calculation system. Or if you say some mind there anthropomorphizes it, doesn't matter to me either way. I don't think we have any dispute. The problem is that
I agree with that.
The problem is if you have the real answer comes to mindfulness again. You can say that, and I can say that because we have will, right? We have agency. The problem is that people who don't feel secure need confidence in the ultimate authority of that religion in order to resist, criticism, insult. They need that confidence. So my view is we have to have both. And I really wanted to find an answer that wouldn't require that, but I actually couldn't.
So I believe that you have said in the past that the most true to Jesus' teachings as far as Christian denominations go is in the evangelical Protestant realm. Is there something about the Catholic theology or their loyalty to their church hierarchy or their loyalty to
Amanda.
the Pope in particular?
Like,
that
clearly,
would
Zionism. I could answer this, Amanda.
I don't know.
I could fucking very clearly
being more
answer.
fit for civilization than,
That's
say,
my own
another Christian.
Can you take over this live stream real quick and get another one beer?
Let me answer two questions.
Can you grab me a water?
You want Gatorade or water?
Whichever. Gatorade.
Jesus, my God. Jesus Christ is our Savior. Those people are very close now to the original Christianity. They've almost denuded it of churchianity. Organized work. That is really getting close. I listen to a few of these preachers, and I'm like, what you're doing is cognitive behavioral therapy. I might as well, and you're doing it in prose. In other words, what they're doing is science, right? I mean, it works. It's correct. Right? So to me, that's what I like. Because my view of religion right now is that churches are political organizations that exploit their people. And what I really like is the intergenerational transfer of Christianity by preachers rather than priests. Does that make sense?
Preachers rather than priests. Please break that distinction.
People who have the calling and they choose to go into it by going to divinity school rather than a church, an established church that has a hierarchy that is bureaucracy.
Okay, sure.
Right? So that's what I prefer. Because I don't want to have any more of these crazy bureaucracies doing shit for power. Of the churches that remain, Orthodoxy is the best because it didn't try to join the political system and it's national. So if you wanted me to have the next favorite church, it would be Orthodoxy.
By that you mean like Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox and such?
Yes, because they just stick to the fucking ritual. They don't try to do this. They don't try to do too much dogma, or they don't try to do. They didn't try to merge Aristotle and Plato in. They just kept it as we're not going to try to make this rational. This is faith. Right? So one of the reasons I like living in the Eastern Europe is their orthodoxy. And so you go to church, and it's not asking you to. It's not asking you to blend faith and reason. It's faith, right? And it's love with Jesus Christ, His faith, whatever your God thank you for what He did. And then when you go out in the real world, it's fucking Russian, because fucking right.
Taking this chair up.
My problem with Catholicism is that the incentives are fucking horrible. And it's become a third world church, a third world religion to maintain the income stream for the church. And so basically there is no European Catholic Church anymore, no American Catholic Church. There's just African Catholic Church and the South American Catholic Church and a few others around. The Pope basically caters to those populations at the expense of Europe.
How do you think that came to be, that it catered to the third world?
Well, it became because of the French and then the rest of the Europeans. Understand, the church was incredibly corrupt organizations. And so the church, this is why women in Europe don't hate men, is women in Europe take their hate out on the church and made religion go away. Women here we didn't have a corrupt church here. So the women took their hate out on men. Does that make sense? Women hate men here, and women hate the church over there. The church got wiped out. Now it didn't in Germany for different reasons. The French are they fit the whole thing, right? Atheism and all, and it really worked.
I hate them. I don't think I've ever see, I've always struggled with the idea of a faith-based deity, but the Christian principles.
Hey, boss, something that didn't work. That I didn't answer your question right.
I think so. So you don't like the idea of like a church hierarchy that.
If it's going to be a church, it needs to be an American church.
Okay.
If it needs to be a European, it needs to be a European church. But the reason,
what about an American Roman Catholic's allegiance to a foreign pope? Is that problematic?
No, as long as it's run here. I just want a real pope. I've said this before. It's an empty chair. I want a pope with fucking balls who says it's going to be this way. That's the reason I pressure Christians all the time. I'm trying to say, man the fuck up. I want and stop waiting for other men to do shit. I mean, if there is none of this Jesus was strong and whatever if no Christians are doing it. So that's why I'm such a dick about it.
Yeah, I've always kind of struggled with that faith part.
Well, I don't want to. I made a point here, which is, the problem is when I make these points, it's lost.
But when
I get lost on everybody, and then everybody walks away pissed at me. Right? So the problem is, I said what I said, which is everybody's got a different hierarchy of the different parts of our composition. Being Christian is very different from being Muslim or Jewish or Hindu or Buddhist or the other major religions or even any other. It makes you, because that forgiveness of each other, that framing is there. Now you can't get that out. You can get it by just living in Christian civilization, or you can get it through the going to church and just following the rituals, or you can get it through studying the dogma and literature. Doesn't make any difference. It's just whether you want to argue it or you want to just live it. And so I don't think about it that way. But as people, for various reasons, people need rules to live by. Not everybody can build an encyclopedic grasp of world civilizations and use that in daily life. It's too expensive for them. So that's all I'm saying.
What I was just saying is, I've never heard it worded the way that you did, and it kind of explains. It helps to explain my position because I've never been able to actually put a language to where I stand. The principles of Christianity were always true, but the question of deity has always been a question.
Well, I mean, this is, my sister comes to me. We're all going to I'm going to Catholic boys' school. It's like, I think the nuns are crazy. It's all shit. And I'm like, but if you live your life according to the rules, will it work? Well, absolutely, no question there. Because why? Because we didn't know why, but now we do. It just turned out it's the right fucking answer. It's just the best possible answer.
Right.
There's people, there's people who run prisoner's dilemma simulations and all sorts of combinations. There's only one answer to prisoner's dilemma, and that's it. You can't epistemologically know the answer until you run the test against people. So that's why I don't like Christian charity that isn't interpersonal, right? Because you can't tell if that person's deserving of charity or your forgiveness or not.
Right, you're not there to make a judgment.
You're not there to make a judgment. Therefore, you're abandoning your Christian responsibility, which is why I don't like all this crap about if it's not, to me, I grew up around people. If you're a Christian, you go out and you help that family down the street with their shit, right? I get a friend who's still in Seattle. He still does it every goddamn weekend. He goes, spends 4 hours with some family that's got some issue, then he fixes the goddamn thing. And they'll do it with a dozen guys if they have to. That's what being Christian means. If that's not what Christian means to you, then you don't fucking get it.
That's honestly what I actually left a lot of the church organization because they didn't have that. The service of the fellow man was the kind of.
I have a problem with one of the problems that I had with religion was how the pastors and how the higher agency guys would always talk about tithe, and then they would bring it to the church. And
try to make the money.
But exactly. And I talked to this one guy, he came to my house, it was Thanksgiving, and he brought me a chicken and a bunch of plates. And, you know, I didn't need it, but he didn't know that. He came over to my house, and then we were talking about tithes. And I was saying, the only problem that I have with a lot of churches right now is how they're selling tithes to me. And he said, well, our pastor, he talks about the tithe as you got to put it in your community. Don't bring it here to the church. This church is fine.
So let's take it and let's move it into the modernity and say that when the church failed to reform, right, the academy took over and it gave us left instead of Christianity, which was way fucking worse, obviously, right? So, but the problem is they never thought of making a house, right, that's doing what the church has always done, is you pay your tithes to the church for care and your taxes to the state for defense. And so why don't we do that in government? Why don't we split the two systems so people vote for basically things separately? It's kind of interesting way to think about it, because we forget that the church was the government for poor people and the means of care and doing that stuff for people for a long, for 1,000 years.
Gentlemen, I just got a contact list for you guys to fill out. Go straight to John Mark. So we got names and faces now. If you want to be, followed up, it's best to put your contact information. You have another avenue of follow-up. Thanks, fellas.
Can somebody get me another one? That works.
I'll look for it.
Kurt, I was going to ask about Germany.
Okay, good. I want to get off religion because I feel so bad after I talk about it every fucking time.
They wouldn't handle it.
That was really good.
Germany is like, because I used to live there for about 50 years.
Germany?
Yeah. And that was in the Air Force.
I kept a hot girl in Berlin for a while. Right after I got married, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I had no idea what you saw in me either. I was like 30. I was 40 something. She was like 38. Italian. I'm like, what? Want to
go with two or one?
She picked me up on a goddamn airplane. Thank you. Oh. She picked me up on a goddamn airplane. I'm like, are you fucking picking me up? Because I'm fucking clueless.
Okay.
I like Germany because of that reason.
I love Germany. I loved it. I mean, not for your reason, but I grew up there as a little kid, and man, I miss it. Like one of the most safest places I ever grew up in as a child. But now
they indoctrinate. It's not a choice. You're going to be German.
I mean, is that now though? Because they got such mass migration. They got a diaspora of people there. That's pretty rebellious.
I haven't been since 12 or 13.
Okay.
So I can't judge.
Okay. My question is, are they going to recover? I mean, their population decline, and then the mass immigration.
I don't know if you guys, people rod my speech today, but I don't know what they heard, right?
Okay.
We're the only ones left. So we have to solve this fucking problem. Understand? It's all, we solve it. Their problem isn't solved without us solving this problem. The minute we solve this problem, they'll solve the problem.
Okay.
You think Europe will follow us? Follow our example?
What about Great Britain? Are they going to be out there?
Either that or we're going to be renting ocean liners going over there and solving it for them. It won't matter because the problem is, we're not going out. We're going out with policy reforms that are true. I mean, it's not like we're trying to convince you with some, rah-rah revolutionary shit, right? I mean, it's just
true
fucking economics. I mean,
yeah.
And the military is completely fucked because they can't. Congress won't let them do what they want, right?
Talking about Germany or America?
Oh, here, right?
Okay.
And so our military needs to be for the next century, right? Which is a very different century, and the Congress is in the fucking way.
Yeah.
Yeah, politics definitely get in the way of military.
Well, because they want to keep the revenue in their districts.
Yeah. What about Great Britain? Is the monarchy ever gonna speak out against anything? Like, why are they always quiet?
Brexit, and then us. Yeah. One of the goals I have in there is to make it very clear that monarchy is the right answer.
Well, I mean, my question was, meaning why doesn't Queen Elizabeth, why doesn't the crown?
Because they're
Why are they always quiet about the mess that's going on?
They're afraid that, her idea was smart. This is not going to work, I'm going to wait it out. That's all they're doing. And so, just like we just figured out this whole 20th century shit didn't work, right? They're figuring it out.
Right.
So we got to understand we're the only ones had rule of law anyway, you know, after the past few centuries, and so we're the only ones that are left to save it. So it's really up to us, guys. I mean, you talk. It's not. That's why I said it's not just America. It's Western civilization, and then by consequence, it's the world. Because nobody can do this shit but us.
We got a question in here. Has Curt given a time when the online signature link will be available?
You know, I don't handle that. I don't know who's doing it. I know.
Tomorrow or the next day.
Is that it? So you heard from the boss.
I got a question. Is there another event planned? Similar to this one, or?
We know what we're going to do, which is the convention, and it's going to be longer. I kind of like this campground. We'll do a convention that's going to be longer, and I'll kind of work on that. But you know, it takes we got a lot of guys here that use input. So and I don't know. I'm not. You know, I want to know what's going on for a few days, and I also want to recover because I wiped my ass out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This trip definitely wore me out. I've tested my limits.
19-hour drive.
But it's confirmed that you want to do another event. You just don't know when.
No, I already said we're going to do something in probably next month or right after.
I couldn't hear you.
We're going to do, and then I'm not going to say what we're going to do after. We're going to do more. Just got to make sure enough guys show up next time.
I'll be showing up.
I'll be at a show, but I might need a little help because this whole trip basically destroyed my savings account.
That right there is an interesting contraption.
It destroyed about 1/10 of my savings. But
Well, it looks pretty cool. I mean, I get the concept, you know, taking the cell phone and professionalizing it.
Stabilize.
So Curt, we still get like federal constitutional rights, correct?
I couldn't hear that, buddy.
We still get federal constitutional rights to some degree, like they might change, but they're still in there.
What do you think I didn't do that with my usual annoying fucking detail?
I just wanted to qualify first.
Yeah, it's there.
What do you think about the right to create securities or create money?
Well, usually you can't create money. The question is whether you can create it and you're being honest about it, and if you're providing sufficient due diligence to not take people into hazard.
Correct. But I think the issue right now is the Fed stepping in like the SEC and saying like, no, you're not allowed to do this. And you can't really do projects as an individual always, like where we're at in terms of science. So a lot of times it takes a group.
I understand. I would need a case example that you want to be able to do that's not being able to be possible. Because you know, people do coin stuff and the digital thing works just fine. Just nobody believes it because so many scammers did it.
Exactly, but I'm saying the issue that we've been running, I'm big into crypto, developer, doing all that stuff. And the problem we've been running into is the SEC telling us we're not allowed to do it. So we do everything.
Not allowed to do what?
To create what they would consider a security token. So something that would be labeled as a security under traditional definitions, like say something like akin to a stock. I would just like the right to be able to create that without the federal government stepping in and telling me, no, you can't do that.
Well, they're telling you because they don't believe they can control fraud, right? And so the question is, how do you work with them to say how I control fraud? Because the world needs what you're talking about, right? It's needed. I put it in the Constitution that it's needed, right? So it's not a thing that we don't need. The problem is that us guys, we are smart and come up with stuff.
You need to be promoted.
That the next layer of guys
You've been filming for a while. I was drunk as shit for a little bit. I drank a whole beer.
Right.
No, I'm good.
So the problem the government doesn't want to do is it doesn't want to have to police another securities organization against fraud. On the other hand, I want the opposite to happen. I want this securities system to go away. The question is, why would you want to sell securities in any fund?
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not looking to do like a traditional definition of securities. I'm looking to create my own tokens, create my own smart contracts, things like that. And we're doing it with the correct ethics. And it's the projects that have the ethics that are the ones that are getting hammered by the SEC. They're coming in and saying, well, I see that you raised $15 million. You raised $20 million. Well, now we're going to crack down because you've got a direction that you're going in. And all I want to avoid seeing in the future is
what they're telling me is you're legitimate enough for us to have to regulate so that nobody gets fucked over by you. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Because why? Because, you know, he's got this family called the Kennedys.
Yeah.
There's a reason the Kennedys are rich and they're the Kennedys. Because who the fuck do you thought that invented stealing shit by securities? The Kennedys. And why do you think that they brought him in to write the securities law? Because he's been so fucking good at stealing shit with securities. I mean, fucking, it's a scam and a half. So the problem is that you gotta, it's like anything else. Can you put enough information together so they can understand how that people aren't going to be able to commit fraud? So how are you going to provide the government with the information that they need so that nobody's committing fraud?
Okay.
I mean, I think that's fair, but I also think that there's the concept of risk. So it's like if you're providing all the details of the risk and saying here's exactly
that's
what.
Because you're saying everybody's a rational actor, except that the stock market proves people aren't rational actors.
Well, that's fine, but you're saying people should be denied the right to take that risk then?
People should be not denied putting markets together that subject people to baiting into hazard. So you miss. So the point is, anybody who does what you want, I mean, you don't believe the shit I've done, right? I mean, it's like when I remember the first time I did stuff in the banking system, I figured out how it worked. I was like, fuck, we ought to just burn this whole fucking thing down. It's basically teletype machines in the 1870s. Right, and so you know, it's the same thing here. Is that they don't want to prevent you from doing it. They want to make sure that they don't end up with something else that they didn't regulate and get fired for. So you're not protecting their asses. That's really it.
Understood, Derek.
I mean, if I could probably figure out what to do if I spend time with you. I don't have time. There's plenty of the market needs the solution you want to provide, right? It needs somebody to solve this problem. The problem, it needs it to provide it. We need to provide it to the insurer of last resort, who happens to be
SEC. But what I'm saying is, the things they're locking down are the things that you could consider warranted. The things they're letting through are the things that would be fraud. My concern is that that's never going to go away.
I had a $30 million contract, and I sold a company rather than do it for the government. You know, it's just dealing with them because there's a certain character you have to have, because you're trying to make it so that they don't get in trouble for not when you fail. That's it. And so the reason companies work well with the government is because they create a group of guys who constantly work with the government on a constant basis to say, okay, this is what we want to do, and you're basically educating them. It's like what we had to do things for the Air Force. You wouldn't imagine, right? But it's just education. And sometimes it takes fucking a year.
I mean, think about it. So, what if they ran the SEC according to proper carrying method? They probably wouldn't have a problem with it. If Curt wins, your SEC is not going to fuck with you.
No, the problem is we need what you want, right? The problem is the investment cost for you to manage the SEC is high, right? That's the real issue.
Yes.
Right. The problem is you didn't hire a guy who just retired out of the SEC for $100,000 a year to be your consultant to go talk to them, which is what I would have done. So, and that's the real problem. And so, is it going to go away? Absolutely, but it's going to go away because somebody like you hires a guy that's been just retired from the SEC and knows all the shit.
Like construction line.
100, 200, 300 grand a year to be an advisor.
Fucking listen to this man talk.
To go talk to them in their language they understand. Right? And that's how that works. So I feel like
God damn it.
I would be getting tired of this question. The answer is I want you to do your shit. It's important. Right? But the problem is to do something like that, it costs a lot of money. It's not an indie project. You have to have investors, so you can hire that guy or whatever. So if I were an investor in your company, I would sit around until you were ready, and then I would go to my buddies and I would get like, you know, a $1 million injection. But I would say you got to use this much of it to hire these guys to go get them on board.
Right. So you're saying use the traditional lending system as the initial step. Because I look at it like, you know, selling that security is getting its funding. But you're saying you need a preliminary step.
You need to make the insurer of last resort who gets fired for not clamping down on your ass, not afraid that he's going to get fired for clamping down on your ass. That's it's weird. I mean, how many guys that work in the military? It's fucking, you know. It's it's just impossible. I hate the government for this reason. It's like dealing with retards, you know, who are asking for like 87 kinds of guarantee that are impossible to give.
Because of
when
bureaucracy.
It comes down to all that really matters is they trust the guy you said it to. Really,
Right.
that's it. That's all it comes down to. And so you just got to get a guy they trust talking to. And those guys are out there. I mean, they have to do it. If you're far enough along, you know,
Right.
you'll get in. That's all you need. I mean, I'd love. If I had another lifetime, I'd love to invest in shit like that. But I don't. You know, I invest in really normal things like, I'm going to buy this business, I'm going to flip it in 9 months because I can do this changes. But I would do that. Did I answer your question?
Yep.
I didn't demotivate you, I hope.
No, I'm definitely much more of an opt-in person, so I wish it was a situation where the government had its right to sign off and say, like, here's an official security, versus me being able to kind of run in that Wild West, bootstrap it off nothing, and say, you know, you're completely on your own hook for the risk on this. The government did not sign off on it at all.
That's not their job. Their job is to make sure people
Fireworks.
Without ear ethic, because they can't talk. Right? People who are unethic, they don't pull any more games that they get fired for. Because who's the guy that did this scam? He's already been arrested, right? The guy in New York.
Madoff.
No. The Bitcoin guy.
Fuck is his
Founder
name?
of Bitcoin?
Anyway.
Talking about the Silk Road stuff?
Remember, it's the, you know, God, I can't pull it up because I'm tired. But there's been enough fraud in the Bitcoin community, right, that it's turned the regulatory system negative. And that's because we played it like the Wild Wild West.
Oh shit, 3% battery, huh?
I get it. Fair enough. Thanks.
Yeah, I want you to succeed. Because, I mean, the only way to get rid of the scamming in the stock market is if we can do that, right? We need to be able to issue, and I want to be able to do fractional shares. I want to be able to put debt markets up there that can buy fractional. So it's just a spreader process, but because if you do that, then there's no ratings problem. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I want this to happen, but nobody's producing it at a level that.
Bradley, you're gonna have to look into that yourself.
Especially with an interface. You got to be able to produce with an interface if people can manage, right? And actually handle the kind of volume and stuff. It's like those little fucking trading machines. I mean, I used to run on 46 computers, right? The program's moronic, right? But look what it did for the industry.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Curt.
Do you know who Nick Fuentes is?
Oh, absolutely.
He thinks that we need to play a long game strategy of infiltrating the Conservative Party, essentially take over it with a new message.
Okay.
And restore it to
Listen,
Catholic conservative.
I can really answer this question. I can. Kurt doesn't need to. Nick Fuentes believes that we have a time constraint that we do not have. He believes we have time we don't have, and he's acting in that sense. We need to act earlier.
How old is that kid?
Nick Fuentes is 21. Yeah, right. It's a 21-year-old making decisions for groypers, which are so far.
30,000 followers.
He does. He does.
You know, I was like, it's like somewhat. How many people believe there's a fucking flat Earth still? You know, I don't.
Exactly.
Flat Earthers, man.
Flat Earth.
That's a hilarious.
No, it's
He
the
reads
point.
comments.
It's the point.
He reads
I
comments.
mean, he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
And he's right. That's what his job is.
Absolutely.
And so he entertains. He keeps his bait out there, so he keeps the attention. It's a good business model. He doesn't get any shit done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, it's. I know. People ask me because they love this community, and I'm like, fuck that shit. I care about Ann Coulter and And what's his name?
Oh shit! Don't do this, Curt. Ann Coulter doesn't have kids. Oh.
Dude, I would. I love that.
Yeah? You think she's? Well, she passes Stefan's. She doesn't. Egg check.
I mean, to live with a woman like that, who you could fucking shit and talk to her all day long, and she would put it. I would fucking love it. I mean, I would never.
Someone tag Ann Coulter. We need to hook up a Tinder connection.
Might have already answered it, but I was kind of thinking it now.
Peter.
What are your thoughts on the whole piece?
Oh boy.
Like I said, would Michael called me up.
Well,
No. Was it Coach? Coach Rick does another investment guy. I don't think he knows it. Yeah.
Coach Rick.
So I have a friend he called me up. Him and Mike, we talked about it. It's going to play out like this, and they're going to do this, and this is the same fucking thing. What does it really happen?
Coach Redfield.
It's a mildly more serious flu that basically kills old people, and if we had frozen nursing homes, hospitals, and hospital staff. We isolated the population from them. We could have kept going on all we wanted. That's what I think from the data. I think that the problem is if you look at the data,
fireworks.
Everybody's putting out slightly different stuff, and it's completely incomprehensible to the public. The reality is, that's a pretty safe flu. If you have preconditions, it's going to fucking hurt you. If it got to me, it would hurt me pretty bad. So, it's
lung cancer again.
That's an unexpected thing. Do I think they're fucking us over on purpose? No.
Never let a good tragedy go to waste.
The original stuff, the original research I saw said that the way the DNA was there was scarring. If you know what that works, it means there's errors introduced next to the injections, and that turned out not to be true. There is the idea that the strain is somewhat related to the Canadian. Again, I don't. My attitude is there are way better people than me about knowing about this.
Right.
And as far as I can tell, as usual, nobody quite knows enough to be having an opinion.
Right. Just stupid.
I mean,
fear mongering.
I'm pretty good at, okay, this is science and this isn't. And I can't, I'm like, okay, the data isn't good enough for us to have an objection. Other than if you're over, 40 something and you're at all exposed, weakened at all in your immune system or your respiratory system, then, you get to, if that cascade happens, you're going to be fucked. Otherwise, I think most people get relatively trivial symptoms and get over it.
If I were to recommend a book,
oh boy,
what kind of
I'm interested in this.
or a book to anybody for that matter.
Why don't you ask him for a book he can recommend to you, kid?
Right.
There's a reading list on the website.
Hit him.
It's by Dr. William Shriver. It's called Goodbye Germ Theory. It has to do a lot with germs and how they work.
Okay.
And the guy, he's a chiropractor. He was going to become an MD, but he decided to drop down and become a chiropractor.
Chiropractors.
He promises that he did it out of goodwill. I don't know how much.
That's a good promise.
Yeah, well, the point is that he explains that they're going to be instilling a pandemic to 9/11 proportions where they'll be mandating vaccines that we'll all have to take.
Okay.
What is that guy?
It's Peter Vey.
Who went out to try to make some money in the current crisis.
No, he wrote this in 2006.
Fine, he wrote it same thing. Right, this germ theory is one of the most understood and earliest renovations. It's not going to change that. If you want to say that people
Chiropractors are not real doctors, yeah, all that.
I don't know. I don't get into it.
Right.
Are there any popular mainstream personalities that are aware of carpetarianism that have come out?
I don't know. You think when Trump starts
Tucker.
I remember you.
Are you booked on the Joe Rogan show?
Yeah, right. When are you gonna do Joe Rogan, Curt? Joe fucking Rogan.
Oh yeah, you'll get a lot of
soon.
publicity with Joe Rogan.
Please.
So we're going to be like DMT.
Well,
Maybe you have to smoke weed.
No, I know she knows about us. I mean, most of them know about it.
Michelle Malkin definitely
They
does.
know somebody said the name to them, right? They don't invest time in it because there's no reason yet.
Yeah, they have too much other
The
shit to
reason
do.
I asked you about Nick Fuentes is because there's a bunch of people asking him
Yeah,
every
that's
night in
the
the super
entire
chat.
That was me.
No, I know, that's what pissed them
That's
off.
great.
That's why that's why I call him a bitch.
Fuentes is a bitch. Official. At least the kid tries. He's sitting with the best of the best, and he doesn't even know it. Oh, definitely, Michelle. Tucker, you don't know. If Tucker Carlson doesn't know about you, Curt, would you feel offended if you don't? Do you think Tucker Carlson knows about you?
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
Yeah.
I think he knows about you.
Here's a question. So
it's hard to.
I feel like he's waiting.
Gotta understand.
Let's see the news tomorrow.
Does this understand?
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
It's not easy to understand.
It's not. Tucker's not a fucking idiot, though.
No, but I mean, you have to be willing to do the work to understand it. It's a lot
Yeah.
of time to invest.
Tucker's probably a guy that has no time to spend on that. He's busy with Fox News.
He could have a team. He could
That's the thing,
easily.
is you have to make it so that they know that that's what our job is.
Yeah.
You don't,
Oh, shit.
You don't ask that. People who are talented, you don't ask them. You generate enough value that
Right.
they want to be part of it.
Yeah, it's valuable to them to talk about you.
That's what you do.
That's where we're trying to get.
You're begging. Never beg.
That's why I'm excited about that next event. I think the more coverage you
Yeah,
get.
it's like I said, we show up the constant.
Yeah.
Then we show up with 100,000 guys, and we're going to be in charge of
Okay.
the narrative. What did I say? I said the whole.
How open are
You're
you?
making me give up too much, but yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I want 100,000 guys is because we'll control the narrative. From the
Sure. How open are you on compromise? Are you or discussion for the Constitutional Convention?
What do you mean?
How much should ideas be discussed so monarchy became an
Right, so
issue?
there's the law,
Obviously.
The law, of course. The
Obviously.
law is the law, right? I mean, you're not going to get me to change on what is man, what is law, what is reciprocity.
Sure.
Right? It's not
Recently, though, we had a discussion about why should the monarch be exempt from certain
that's
laws.
A choice. That's not a truth.
Sure. Okay.
Right? And so I would say what I said is I can't
focus.
believe anybody's going to buy this because Americans have been told so much stupid shit. But the science is the monarch's the best answer, right?
Absolutely.
If people won't go for it, well, they fucking won't go for it.
Heritable or intellectual monarch, at least.
Excuse me. A monarch fulfills the role of the judge of last resort, or the savior of last resort.
Sure.
Theoretically, Elizabeth can call up the army, disband Parliament and seize your fucking property if she's doing it to restore something evil, right?
Wait,
How would
beans a second ago. I think
And you honestly, you absolutely positively want that. 'Cause
Yeah.
they wouldn't
Why
have
is
this
it not
shit right
focusing?
now if the monarchy still had that power.
Okay. So if for instance it's not a heritable monarchy,
The whole point is it's heritable.
you have only had daughters. I'm sorry, Curt, but you have elected Martin as your heir. So in that sense, how does succession work in a monarchy
You
of?
want a hereditary monarchy. That's the whole point. Is you
Sure.
want and you don't want it to be. You want a big monarchical family.
Right.
But there's so many people have interest in preserving this, and you have all these state functions. Because one of the things that Jews tried is they wanted to destroy the monarchy because that way they could denationalize the era.
Right. They want to abolish aristocracy.
Guys, I'm out.
Good night.
Guys that showed up, you guys are rock stars.
Sure.
Forever.
You're
leaving now? Yeah, I gotta go. Oh, we see you guys.
Good night, man.
You want to ride?
Yeah, we better
All
right. Are we heading out?
Yeah. Our ride's leaving. We're gonna go. Watching me.
Right. It's getting late.
Well, Curt, just one last thing. Like, have you thought about what like with all of the manpower and infrastructure that we have in the country, and the fact that it's being held back,
We're about
like,
to
what
put-
does
it's
it look
about
like
to
when it
pass.
finally gets unleashed with propertarianism? Like, have you ever thought about the possibilities? Do what?
Obviously. You know, so for example, picture. See, people think I just make this shit up on my ass, but no, I've got reference for everything.
It's great. It's great.
Germany is an interesting territory. It's actually all the
My
parts of
phone
Germany
is
are
drunk.
geographically isolated. They weren't
Phone is
able to
drunk.
create a New York and an LA. They had to
I'm
create
sorry,
a lot
man.
of cities.
There you go. Sorry. Focus
And
on
so
Curt.
then when they connected those cities
It's
together,
getting dark.
all the cities were industrialized at the same time through rail systems. It's incredibly effective for them. So the problem with our country
I will
is
give
all the
Curt a
money's going
hug.
into 3 places. New York, DC.
I'm trying to get on a film, even.
And all of them are against the interest of everybody in the interior. So what happens if now there's opportunity to make revenue in every single state? Well, we'll get the same effect Germany had. It will just turn out to be that you'll have a lot of wealth in different states. So the problem is right now is that if you want to repatriate, say, the LED screen or plasma screen technologies to the states, because we don't have any, you can. It's really easy for a state to decide to do that because that's a competitive advantage they have. But you can't get the federal government to do it because it's too much power distance.
Gotcha. Power
So you got
distance.
50 or 60 different states, or maybe
That's
100,
something to
God
think
knows,
about.
right? All trying to do shit like we're going to make
Focus,
it win
phone.
for us. And that's what we want. We want to decentralize the capital investment in the country, and what will happen is we'll decentralize the cost of first
Yeah.
housing.
Game of
And
Thrones
that means
fucked up,
people will be able to
Terry.
spread around the country and make good shit.
Hey, if you guys could share this, have at it.
I mean, I don't think it's rocket science.
It's a good conversation. It's a conversation with a man who's drinking whiskey.
So you're thinking a 21st century German miracle in the U.S. interior?
You know, honestly, everybody else in the world is fucked.
Doesn't have to be German, it has to be analytic,
I
right?
was just trying to make the point of that you want to distribute a lot of wealth to a lot of cities and let them each industrialize for their own interests, and then together come back.
Sorry, I gotta get up close to you. So I gotta get up close to you, or you gotta yell. We choose one, so I'll get close. It's fine.
So
I gotta go, but it was nice meeting
thanks,
you.
Russ.
I
Spread the
will
word.
see you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
See you around here.
I lost it. I'm sorry.
We were talking about German.
Industrialized for their
Okay.
Ah, yeah.
So in the States, you got to understand, the United States pays for policing of the seas.
Yeah.
Have any idea what that means?
Our Navy is the biggest and the most dominant.
Well, and nobody else pays for policing.
They also suck as a force, to be honest.
Who?
The Navy, our Navy,
yeah.
U.S. Navy, utterly the fattest,
gonna-
the fattest
I'm
of
not
the four.
gonna do
Okay,
that,
okay.
It's true.
That's me. I'll be in a Marine.
Well,
a Marine.
I mean, is there any point in having ships anymore?
Marines historically used to beat Navy, sailors with clubs. So that's just me being a Marine, applying criticism. This is my club. They have the fattest body percentage.
I'm gonna try to get.
Okay.
Also have
You do-
women on their ships who all get pregnant.
Pregnancy is an utter. Oh.
All right, so can I get
Go, Tay, go ahead.
I'm losing.
I'm
I'm tired.
sorry,
I need
sorry.
to maintain focus.
Yeah.
The
You
U.S.
need,
plays
you need
for
to keep drinking
policing
whiskey,
the
Curt.
seas.
All right,
Nobody else has to pay.
Zion is the best
Fucking-
at talking about this. Peter Zion. And,
Peter
understand,
Zion.
So we stopped doing that shit, right?
You are
Now
right.
you remember how everybody's got to pay to replace what we've been doing, right? But what do we got? We got a big fucking island, right? Well, you know, we got a big fucking island with every resource we could possibly
It's like a
want.
fucking rainbow.
We got a cheap labor pool to the south. We got endless resources to the north.
It's
and
a
we got
sign,
the
yeah.
biggest
Kurt has a
breadbasket in the
fucking
world
rainbow
that
on him.
figures the whole metal of the country.
That shit was
And
dope.
so, you know, I mean, we're fucking
focus,
good
phone.
as long as we get this shit under control. I mean, it's really
Huh?
And that's
Oh yeah, dude.
because we can't afford to police this system.
Kurt's
The
here.
technological
Just
difference
listen.
between us and the rest of the world isn't enough anymore.
Yeah. How about we just stop the interview and get drunk, huh, Curt? Fuck. Are you ready? Are you done? God damn. Tired, huh? I don't know. Me too.
All right, one final question, Curt.
I can do this all day.
He can. It's terrible. It's horrible. God. Stop. Please stop. You know? Christ.
Were you surprised when such a small crowd of, not propertarians, but just the rest of the
I was in the
people
Marine
who showed
Corps.
up to Richmond? I was expecting, like, maybe 3/4 or at least a half of what showed up in January.
It's a good question, man.
I don't think I understood yet.
Well, I kind of expected that at least half of the amount of people who showed up in January, you know, like Second Amendment guys. No?
Look, we only told our own, right?
Not.
He's talking about
us
the 2A
out of
rally.
the equation.
2A rally?
Yeah, he thought there'd be more
because
2A
they didn't
ones.
make it a national thing. See, the thing was the 2A rally. It was to stop an urgently passing set of bills. Right?
It didn't really work.
So it nationalized the issue. This is just, you know, let's have another rally and get a, you know. So.
Well, everybody's pissed off at Northam, even now. You would think that just like, all right, Virginians, I'm talking. Virginians would have thought, all right, we went to the Capitol in January for those reasons, and now Northam is continually just being a terrible person. We should go back on July 4th and make another just to put him in his place. And what, like nobody.
Well, they didn't nationalize the issue.
Right.
And I came for that, and I was fucking, you know, I did overnight. So, you know, I mean, they didn't nationalize it. I mean, and they wouldn't answer my fucking, they wouldn't respond to even me or our people. And I'm like, I can't, like, I would have, like, got everybody to come for both things, right? So,
Perhaps.
They're young.
Perhaps.
What was the conversation you had with the BLM people whenever they were on the step? Somebody said that you actually had like a conversation with them. I didn't see it. No?
No, I did. Absolutely.
No.
They came up, and then what am I going to do? The Second Amendment guys brought them over. The
Absolutely.
Second Amendment guys are hosting us, right?
Yeah.
They say, will you mind talking to these guys? And they sat down and, like, you know, they asked me a couple of questions. I don't remember. I was trying to be friendly, so I made dick jokes. All right, and you know, and I said, well, you know, something along the lines of, I mean, I understand you got a problem, but you know, you got half your guys in middle class now, but the rest of half, they're kind of fucked. And the reason we don't have that problem is because we killed all ours. You know, and that's about all I remember, because it's been a while, I'm tired, and
You've been drinking whiskey.
But you know, I don't really, frankly, I don't get the whole thing, because what am I supposed to do? I just got on stage and said, I want to have an open, honest discussion with everybody, regardless of where they are. And these guys come up and they want to have an open, honest discussion. I mean,
my phone is
like,
about to die. It sucks. I'm sorry. I can't do anything about
It's
that.
not like.
The thing is that
If it dies in the middle of this Curt interview, I apologize, but I got 1% and I'm hooked up to a battery, but got 1%. Sorry, guys.
I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I don't think I can
Okay.
kind of tension.
Right.
You what? I saw real tension.
All right, so sorry, we're gonna cut it off here so I can finish the video. Everybody, show up next time. That way, I don't have to fucking live stream for you assholes that stay at home and don't get involved. I love you all, though. Absolutely love you all.
Second Amendment.
Show up, though. Show up.